Good morning. Welcome to Bench to Bold. I'm Alisa.
And I'm Marnie.
And we're so excited to have Christy Kuhl here with us today, life coach. And we're going to hear some great things from this life coach. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
And thank you so much for being here on this beautiful fall day. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited it's fall. We're all dressed like it's fall. I'm ready for it. So let's just jump right in.
Yeah.
Tell us what inspired you to become a life coach?
Yeah.
Because that's not your backstory.
It's not. And would you believe that it was an accident?
No.
So I spent, so the tiger that was chasing me my whole life as I moved into my professional career was financial freedom. I grew up in a one-stoplight town. I always knew that I wanted more. And when I pull a lever, I pulled a lever. And so I went to college. I had a pre-med undergrad. I got an MBA right away. And I landed in medical device sales. I wanted to be in the operating room instructing doctors. And so that's as far as I could see for myself at 18 years old. And I did that. And then I moved up to another company and a disruptive company, the Da Vinci robot. And so now I've developed this skill set of doing something that's really difficult, and the market really wanted us. And so I kept saying yes. It's nice to be desired. Right? They kept validating. The paycheck kept getting bigger and bigger. But something always felt off. And being a Midwestern gal who is used to doing hard things, at some point I'm like, is it supposed to be this hard all the time? And there's a few things that just don't feel right. And I'm coming into my own. And I was in my early 30s, and I went to my first Tony Robbins event. And I was hanging out with his platinum partners. And now these people were incredibly successful in comparison to me. And one thing that I noticed was their shoulders were down, and they were having a really good time. And I just thought this level of stress that I was carrying came with this paycheck that I had and this job and this prestige. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, man, I'm doing something wrong. I'm really doing something wrong. And Tony Robbins had said, take out a piece of paper and write down what makes you feel fulfilled. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And at this point, I'd probably been to 3 of his conferences. That was my entry point into personal development. I didn't know anything about any of this stuff. And he said, what makes you feel fulfilled? So pre-med, MBA, I took my phone and had to Google what fulfillment meant. I had no idea. I was just like running and running and running. Very one-dimensional life. And so he said, I'm like, okay, I got it. And I start writing down my list, and I'm like, well, I want to rescue dogs. That would make me feel fulfilled. And I like to be in nature, and I love to be 100% present when I'm with somebody. I love to help. I love to take them out of pain. So I was like, okay, I got my list. And then he starts talking again. And he said, well, you need to find a way to make that your life. And I'm like, well, there's no money in that. Like, how am I going to eat? Like, who's going to pay the rent? And he said, or find a way to make your money and spend more time doing this. But at least I had like a little bit of a roadmap. I had a little bit of like, okay, if I can just do a little bit more of this, maybe I'll feel a little bit better. And there were certain people in the corporate sector. I don't like politics. I don't, truth and integrity are my core values. So corporate America conflicted all the time. And that stuff was, I'm a very sensitive person, and that would eat me alive. And I'm like, okay, the more I did this other stuff, the more I felt better, but I didn't have a lot of time or energy to do it. And so I did what most people did. And I should have jumped at that moment. Now I know, and I teach this, but that courage wanes if you don't take it, and you got to let the whole pain cycle start over again. And I took a vacation, which most people do. And it came down for a minute, and it came right back. And so I left, and I didn't have a plan. But that next time I had a moment of courage, I thought, if I don't figure out, I knew that I had gifts that weren't being tapped into to their fullest. And I knew I could design a life. If I got still and quiet, I knew I could design a life where I could utilize those gifts, and I could be my true authentic self, and I could sleep at night. And I could drink water, and I could
exercise.
I could exercise. My nervous system would be balanced, and I could work with people that I love. I could be around people that I really enjoy that don't conflict my core values. So I left, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I fell into the person that needed the life coach at the time. I didn't even know what one was. I honestly didn't know what one was. So I fell into just having conversations with company owners, flying around, trying to decompress and figure out what I wanted to do. And I would start going into companies and fixing some things. And I was utilizing a lot of the things. I had great leadership in corporate America. So I was utilizing some of those tools. And then I realized how, like, there's no delineation between life and business. Right? If something's going on, like and so then that's really where over the years, I'm 7 years out, I've really honed in on high performance and well-being. So the individual and that's just basically you showing up and being your best self and getting somebody from, the bottom of the next summit to the top. And so sometimes we do fix some things in the organization. A lot of times I'm just working with the individual.
So how did you start to get your clients? I mean, how did you start to build your clients? Did you go back to some of the people that you had when you were in medical device sales?
Zero.
Okay.
No, zero. And I think that's the thing, that when people are looking to pivot, you got to be willing to go back to the junior leagues again, right? So here I am leading sales teams, and I have teams of teams of teams. And now, I'm going back to like my whole identity was stripped. And I'm going back to, nobody knows who Christy Kuhl is.
Right.
Like, that industry knew me and sought me out. Over here, nobody knew me. And I didn't even really know how to describe. So a lot of it came, and I'll tell you, it just happened when I was with a client at a private event this weekend. Somebody said, man, like your energy, there's something, I need to talk to you. I don't know what it is, but I would just have a conversation, and then we'd kind of sort it out from there. A lot of my one-on-one clients come from referral. Yeah. And then I launched, once, after doing this for quite some time, I realized that the more speaking I do, the more women I can help, the more people I can help at a different price point, if there's a way to do that group coaching. So that's when I launched Unleashed, and Unleashed is my 12-week framework that's priced at a lower point. And now I've really had to figure out, and I don't have it all the way figured out, marketing and, how do I attract those clients and close those clients, because the other stuff is it just happens differently, yeah.
What's your ratio of the clients that you have, men versus women?
Ooh, that's a great question. The majority of one-on-one is men.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I would say 75% men.
Wow.
Yeah, which totally surprised me.
Yeah, me too.
Well, so, I mean, do they come in and have a goal list? Do you do something similar with the Tony Robbins thing where you ask them those questions, or how would a coaching session kind of, without giving all your trade secrets, Christy, but, and also what's the difference between a life coach and a motivational coach and a therapist?
Yeah.
Some people, I think, are in a place where they need to get some help, and they might be confused as to which direction. Maybe they think they need to hire a therapist, or maybe they would hire a coach. So how would you counsel one on the differences and the choices?
Yeah, great questions. Thanks for asking that. So I will always do a discovery call with somebody, and I'll just say, okay, what led you to me? A lot of times we're like, this is the last place I want to be. And I start laughing, and I'm like, okay. Or so what, they're trying to do it on their own. What most people don't realize, I still have a coach, and I always will, because you cannot see the picture you cannot see the picture frame when you're the pitcher. So you can see my missteps. You'll be able to, the more we hang out, you'll be like, well, that's her pattern. That's right. And so, but there's emotion tied to that, and there's people, and there's stories that I've told myself. And so, I will always do a discovery call and just understand what's their main frustration, where are they, and where are they trying to go? And if I can't help them, I can't. And so I don't start everybody off in the same place based off of what it is. And some people don't have time to figure some of the deeper stuff out. They just need the mechanic. So my work is a lot alignment. So I was out of alignment in corporate America. A lot of my friends, I shouldn't have been hanging around. My family's very different than me. So I focus on alignment. I also have high performance systems. And that's what made me so good in corporate America, is because if you stay strict to the system, we're going to get, and it's reproducible and you can teach it, you're going to get to the top of the summit. So some people will come in because they're liable to the board. They need to increase sales, whatever it may be. And they just want to get from here to here. Okay, I got that. Let me clear, and we're going to go focus, and I'm going to figure out, we're going to reverse engineer what you need to do every single day. These 3 things every single day. Success is boring. And most people don't realize that. If we keep doing that, we're going to get you to the top of the summit. So sometimes that's the place that we start. Now, other times people are just like, they keep coming up against themselves in the same way. So if we want to fix that so that we don't do that again, we don't self-sabotage in the same way, we don't continue to make the same decisions, then I will mix in the alignment along the way. And that's the majority of it. Like, I would say the other piece is more of like a sprint, like, okay, we got to get somewhere. Now, when it comes to like therapy, and I believe in all the work, if I find that there's something really, really significant that happened in childhood, I don't have any of those degrees, nor am I going to try to be. So if I find that they really need to sideline themselves and work on something specifically, I'll make sure that I refer that out. The motivation just comes, people think like the motivation, I think motivation wears off like a warm bath, And so I'm all about systems and setting your environment and yourself up and being around people
to motivate you.
Yeah. And accountability. And so, the motivation just, it's a byproduct of the whole thing. Yeah.
I feel like it's hard to motivate ourselves sometimes. We need other people around. At least I feel like I do, to motivate. I need to see, I feel like sometimes when I was in medical device sales and medical lab sales, I felt like even just my partner that, I worked with, just seeing some of the goals that she set for herself was motivational in itself for me to see those goals. It's like, I come from a fitness background, and it's like seeing my friend who competed and what discipline and consistency it took her to get to that level was motivating for me, knowing that I wanted to step on stage one day to get to that level, right? Sometimes, even in corporate America, when I worked, I felt like I needed to be around people that were motivating me a lot of the times. When you're I guess coaching these individuals, do you feel like sometimes they want an easy fix and they don't want to fix the things that they really need, the underlying issues that they need to fix to continue to be successful?
Yeah. I say no to those clients. I can't help them.
Yeah.
I just, I'm a very transparent, I'm very authentic. And when I left corporate America, it was because, and I won't say yes. A lot of these large companies, I can't be very effective with change.
Yeah.
And that doesn't light me up. Like, my energy is everything. And if it doesn't light me up every day, that's a big piece of how the transformation happens too. So I think that a lot of the individuals that follow me on social media, they're there because I try to speak as much truth as possible of like, what does it really look like? Mm-hmm. A lot of days suck. A lot of days are hard. A lot of days you don't want to do it. There's days that people ghost you. Like, I want you to know, my Instagram started doing this, and then one day I did a story, and I'm like, I just want you all to know that I'm getting 400 new followers a week, but I'm losing 100 too. And some young gal who actually joined one of my coaching program, she said, thank you for sharing that. I forget, and so social media is a highlight reel. And I want people to know this is what it's going to take for you to go from here to here. Are you in, or are you not? If you're in, I'm in too. But if you're not, we're just
what are we doing?
Limp along.
Right.
We're just not going to limp along.
And it's like a relationship, any kind of relationship, right? You have to find that fit. It's like you go on a date, that might be a nice person, but it's probably not, it may or may not be the person for you. I think the same thing probably applies to, when someone calls you to have a discovery call, whether or not you feel it in your gut, can I work with this person? And they're probably thinking the same thing. Mm-hmm. Is everything aligning here to where I can really, because they're probably spending a lot of time. You are probably spending a lot of time with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the average time that you spend with coaching a client?
Typically, so it just depends.
On where they're at.
Traditionally, like a one-on-one client will be 3 calls a month with WhatsApp support in between, because that's where a lot of the breakthrough happens. Is you have the conversation, with somebody in your company, or you think about this thing and they want me to know. So Now my higher end clients have, I call on-call services. So that's different. Where, if they text me, they have my cell phone. If they text me, then I'll get back to them within a certain period of time. Yeah.
Are there key themes that you consistently see in people that are looking to improve themselves versus people that are okay with just kind of the middle of the road? So the high performer, are there themes again that are consistent throughout their behavior or potential clients that you can recognize?
Like things that are different about a high performer versus somebody who's okay with this?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just, high performers are never satisfied. They're never satisfied. And once you understand that, there's a level of obsession that happens, and it's okay. I mean, that is really what it takes. You just don't fall on that level of success. You really don't. And I think that oftentimes this person, the high performer, feels like something's wrong with them, or because you're listening to all the people around you. And the reality of it is, you get to decide who you want to be in life, and that's probably the hardest thing for the person that's here, that wants that. They're worried about everybody else around them.
Well, it's like Jerry Rice, who played for the San Francisco 49ers. Everybody would always say like he was the best teammate, but literally the worst teammate, because his expectations of himself were so high that he was like, what do you mean you're not going to get up at 4:30 a.m. and run 10,000 steps and do this and do that? And then we're going to go to practice and we're going to like, he would be so mad at his teammates if they were not fully on board with what he was doing. And ultimately, like I've heard Jerry talk about this, where he got to a place where he had to accept that like they had a great team and they weren't all going to be like Jerry, but they were all going to be great members of the team, even though it was still really hard for him to accept the fact that like his way wasn't the only way to get success.
Yeah.
I think don't you think that comes down to a control thing?
Probably. I think that, certainly, we've all been around people that have achieved massive success and that have broken into places that were definitely off limits at certain times for them. And I think that the key thing is that, like you have both said, it's consistency, but it's also just repeating that same loop over and over and over again, comprehensive and consistent. Like what I heard growing up was you got to comprehensively address it, but be consistent in it where it is boring. But then that's like where the rubber meets the road, and the fun becomes like, it's boring, but I like this repetition of what it is, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. And that's what I want. That's the only way to really become super successful.
Yeah. So you probably know who Tim Grover is with your sports background.
Yes.
Right. And Ben Newman. I don't know if you know who Ben Newman is. So he, Saban brought him in for his last 5 years. So Ben's a dear friend of mine. And, I could call Ben and be like, I built a rocket ship in my garage last night and I launched it and it landed on the moon. And he'd be like, stay locked in, you're just getting started. And I'm like, no, I actually kind of, but they understand what winning at the highest level really looks like. And it's, to your point, it's very simple and it's very repetitive.
But I think high level achievers are they're control freaks.
Oh, yeah.
I'm reading the Let Them theory, and I'm reading all about control. I'm a control person. Yeah. I think when you've led sales teams and it's control, it's like if someone on my team couldn't do something, I'm like, you know what? I let me do this, right? But you're really not teaching someone, if you're not a good manager if you're doing that. You're just taking the, slack yourself or doing it yourself.
Yeah.
But I am such a control freak. And I'm learning from the Let Them theory that you cannot control anyone but yourself. And I know that. I think we all know that deep down, but it's, I'm a high level person too. And it came from being in, corporate healthcare and
I think
having to achieve a
great
sales
word.
goal.
Or
run a team.
If you can influence somebody to do, to get the same result in their way, influence and,
and inspire.
Yeah.
Right.
Influence, inspire, tell a lot of stories, because the Jerry Rice's, that's just a whole different level, right? So it's like, okay, what does success look like for me? What am I willing to do to be able to get there? And that's in the beginning, a lot of what I lay out, because a lot of people don't want to do the work and they just have to accept that this is the way it's going to be, or they do want to do the work and now they don't know how to have the conversations with all the people around them or rearrange things. Oftentimes too, as we were talking before we got started, there are a lot of people out there that don't have that mentality, that are dragging all these other people with them that they feel like they're supposed to drag along. They're not supposed to let go of them. They're supposed to, you're not supposed to change. Well, I change all the time. I'm evolving. I'm constantly evolving.
You have to.
So I feel like a big piece of my work too is giving people permission to do and be who it is they know. I hear a lot of like, well, I should be grateful, right? Well, you can be grateful and still want more,
So I'm just laughing when you're talking about inspiring people. I've had a vacuum cleaner sitting in the middle of my living room for 5 days now, trying to motivate one of my children, although the two boys are gone, mostly my daughter, to be like, oh, let me plug that in. And actually use it. So I'm like, if I just drag it in and put it in the middle of the living room, maybe she'll get the hint that that's like, it's there to be used instead of just us, hopping over it as we walk in and out of the house. But stay tuned. We'll see. We'll see if the vacuum gets plugged in, other than me doing it. Cause I'm like, I then get frustrated, but now I'm at a place where, you know what, if it just sits there and eventually, cause everyone's not on our own timeline. And that's what I've realized. Like there is something special about like knowing that the timeline isn't going to be exactly how we want it, but that's okay. And once, like for me, at least, once I can get comfortable in knowing that it's not going to be, I can't really snap that well, but as immediate as I'd like it to, but I'm like, all right, I'm going to enjoy the process of it. Then I feel like I've taken kind of the yuckiness out of the actual job that it is and made it like, okay, we're going to get there. It's just going to be slow and steady. And that will probably have better results than if I'm just frenetically, doing something that doesn't seem so organic and I'm just like jamming it in or whatever else.
Yeah.
And those are some things that like I've learned from watching professionals have success, because it doesn't happen overnight, but good people make it look easy and that it's happened overnight.
Well, and reading this book, I'm back to the let them theory. It's helped me so much. I read it over the weekend while I was flying up to New York. If you model that behavior, let's say I want my husband to do something, go to the gym, right? I want my husband to go to the gym more. Why? Why do I want him to go to the gym more? I want him to be healthy. I want him to live long life. And it's been proven that if you, do the right things, you eat healthy, modeling that behavior in front of someone, this might help you with the vacuum cleaner if you start vacuuming in front, but no, if you, instead of getting upset and saying, you should get out of bed and stop doing work and go to the gym, and instead of taking a different approach and them seeing you do it and, how I'm healthy, I look like I'm in great shape, and may bleed over to them rather than, and I think that's where you influence someone and you inspire them. You're more apt to get them to do something rather than be upset with them about it and take a different approach that way.
Right. Because I think that like when we get mad about the things that we really can't control, then it ultimately it upsets our apple cart and that's not fun for anybody. All right. So Christy, are there any sayings that you have shared with your clients or with yourself that might be just good little nuggets for people out there that want to improve themselves that you could pass along?
Yeah. So for leaders, you can only lead to the level of discipline in which you live. Mm-hmm. So I always tell leaders, like, this is not, you ever hear somebody be like, well, don't do what I do what I say. Like, no, you are the leader. You lead to the level of discipline in which you live. So what is it like? Because whether you say one thing, if you're doing something, even if we can't see it, it's going to be felt. So it all starts with us. It always starts with us, and it takes what it takes. So sometimes you get on the path and it takes more, or it takes something different. It takes whatever it takes to finish. And that's high performance. Like, and I love being around athletes because either they won or they didn't.
Yeah.
like there, it is full transparency, where I think in a lot of other areas of life, there's a little bit of ambiguity. There's some walls that you can be behind. Right now, I find that everybody feels like they need to add more and more. And the reality of it is you need to subtract. Mm-hmm. You need to identify what are the most important things. What does success look like to you in your relationships? Who are the people that make you feel good? Like, who keeps your energy high? Who keeps your confidence high? everything comes down to focus and repetition. And if you've got yourself so busy with all this other stuff, you probably don't need anything new. You just need to find time on your schedule to do the boring stuff over and over and over again and get better and better and better at those things. It's very simple and it's very basic. We overcomplicate everything. And the last thing that I will say is really self-awareness is everything, and understanding like what makes you feel so good, like what makes you a 10 out of 10 every day. And how can you prioritize that? So whether I'm an individual contributor or I'm part of a company or a team, I'm going to make sure that I'm a 10 out of 10. And so for my line of work, at any given period of time, I could be somebody's moment. That's the way I look at it. And I don't know if I'm going to find her at, walking out the front door of where I live, or at the mailbox, at the gas station. But if I'm not tuned in and I'm not aware, to me, that's a big piece of my purpose. And so what makes me a 10 out of 10? Well, I need to work out, right? If my body is in a certain way, I'm going to feel a certain way. I also get an endorphin release from it. So I need to work out. I need to eat protein. I just turned 45. I'm going down kicking and screaming. So protein, sleep is really important to me. Laughter, being around good people. So this is what makes me a 10 out of 10. I have full control over that. Right. So if I don't drink alcohol, because if I drink alcohol, I'm going to probably wake up. I'm not going to sleep good. I'm going to wake up anxious. These are all Christy's decisions, and we all have the ability to do that. So I think if that makes people feel like they have a little bit more control, even if like they don't like their boss or what, you can still show up. Excellence is a personal choice. And finally, give yourself some grace. If like, I'm always adopting new things and taking things to the next level. I had a client in town on Saturday night, and I was up late. I decided to run 5 miles. I'm not a runner, with my neighbor. She runs Ironmans. I'm like, she can do it. I can do it. And she's faster than me. So I did that in the morning. Then I was up all night, was with my clients, home later than usual. And I'm doing a keynote, and the slides were due on Monday. I have a piece of paper this big in 3 different places, like on Sunday, to make sure I put those slides together, right? So I still have reminders. And when I'm adopting a new habit, I have reminders everywhere, because we're going to get up and we're going to do the same thing. So if you think like, shoot, I forgot to do what I was supposed to do, or that took me longer, who cares? Just try again tomorrow. It's really not a big deal. But I feel like we throw the whole gosh darn thing out. And it really is just that, like, okay, just stay in it. Just stay in it. Just keep showing up.
Sometimes we beat ourselves up more than we should, right?
Oh my gosh.
We're our own worst enemy.
Yeah. And I think communication is great too, because does your daughter even know what the vacuum means over there? Or does your husband even know why, you're putting the clothes out for him? Right. So I think
here's your shorts, here's your tank, your top, here's your tennis shoes.
For me, like in the dating world, I don't know, to me, I would rather tell you what's important to you, to me, and see if you can hit the mark, than like being over here, like hoping that you can read my mind, or that you got the cue,
people can't read my,
or you got the whatever, right? So like, why don't I because then we're just, oftentimes you got 2 people with wonderful intentions, but you're speaking French and I'm speaking English, and I'm trying and I'm frustrating because you're not seeing it, and and vice versa. So why can't we just try to have a little conversation about it too? Because this whole journey could end for us tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It really could. So how can we just enjoy? There's hard parts, there are, but like, how can we just mix in little things that just make it as enjoyable as possible?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that it's so much is about, we don't really learn how to listen at a young age. And so we kind of overanalyze things on our own perspective, but, and sometimes, I certainly have done that, but I think what I like about aging, so many things I like about aging, there are a few things I don't like, but is that like, we really are allowed to age gracefully and to give ourselves our own, pat on the back and our own pep talk, and be our own best cheerleaders. Cause I think if we're not in a place where we can't cheer for ourselves, then we definitely will not be good partners to cheer for our children, our loved ones, our family, our, business associates and things like that.
I love that. Well said.
So it's something about, I'm very fortunate because I've got great friends and great people in my life that I know are my best cheerleaders. So I certainly want to be in a position to be a great cheerleader for them. We have a family saying, cheering for others makes you a leader, a cheerleader. So thank you for all of your wisdom.
I love that. And we need more people like that, and we need more women like that.
A lot more.
Yes. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I know. Well, so that's why it's interesting that the majority of your clients are more men than women. Do you think it's that women are afraid to be their own best cheerleaders, or what is it?
I don't know. I haven't figured that out. Because there's women that are certainly going for it. I don't know if it's a matter of like what's happened for me. And there's when I first started doing this, and I was around some of the folks that I had mentioned beforehand that are coaching these big time athletes. I thought these people aren't going to want to learn from a woman. And then all these people started coming, and then there's people that were like, no man's going to tell me anything. And I was like, oh, okay, there's a piece of this for a man, right? So I'm not 100% sure. I will say that, my group coaching is all women. And what I have found in there accidentally is the community is really, that has really helped them tremendously to be a place where they can be vulnerable, and we can talk about a lot of things that we're learning and going through. And I push them just as hard as I push the other ones too. But there's just something very unique and special when women come together. And I'm very diligent on the screening process because I want it to be that safe, sacred space that I'm looking for in my personal life too. It's really hard. So I don't know if it's just a matter of I haven't found all the women out there I haven't exposed myself to, or the one-on-ones are coming from, but they're doing it, and maybe it's just I'm not their cup of tea. Maybe my style's not. I think that you have to find somebody that really that you can listen to and you want to be around, and that's fair. I honor that.
Interesting. No, I just think that my mom was a very strong woman and, was really an incredible leader. So I think that it might just be so I like to be around really strong, dynamic women. That's something that to me, I'm an only child, that I enjoy that company of being around women that are, even if they're not necessarily running a Fortune 500 company, or they might be simply, maintaining the household, but they have it all together and they're doing things. And so that's
the DNA is there. And I find that too. It doesn't matter what they do. Yeah.
So it's interesting. I always enjoy being around bright, intelligent, beautiful women. But I think that sometimes women, it's harder for them to be around those women. They just are not as comfortable with it. And, maybe one day they'll get there.
Yeah.
Because there's so much fun when you're around smart, beautiful women. It's so much better.
Yeah, I think so. And I at the end of the day, most of us don't take ourselves, that group, they don't take themselves that serious too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. You can have a lot of fun with them as well.
So we're bench to bold. So tell us one bold move you feel like you're making in your personal life right now.
Traveling again on stage, being on stages. So the thing that I was afraid of, I haven't talked about this at all yet on TV or on online. When I left corporate America, my biggest fear was creating a life that I didn't want to show up for again. And one of the hard parts of corporate, I'm an introvert. If I'm out there all day, I'm going to come home and be quiet and be silent and be by myself. And so I have been pushing off getting out and speaking more on stages, because a hotel room here, a different city there, is creating a piece of that other life. And now it's time to go for it. It's time to get out there more. And I don't have to say yes to everything, but the message is there, and it's time.
So what are your next planned events for speaking? Do you have any lined up?
Yep. So there's 2 here in Charlotte. There's the Charlotte Chamber of Commerce on September 25th. So there's still tickets available for that if this airs before that. And then there's I didn't even know about this event. There's the Catawba Chamber of Commerce event, and there's 900 women that go to that. And I'll be speaking at that on November 20th.
Fantastic. All right. So wait, but let's just go back a little bit. You said you were from a 1 traffic light town.
Yeah.
So then how did you end up here in the Carolinas?
Yeah. So I knew my poor mother. I told her since I was 12, I like the first chance I get, I'm gone. And I was early. So I have a September birthday. So I graduated at 17. Just by a few months. Turned 18. Went to college. And I just said, I'm never coming back here. And I went to a college in the state, and I always wanted to be in a warmer climate. But I was offered a position from Johnson & Johnson that moved me to Madison, Wisconsin, which is like the coldest place on earth. I mean, it really, like, you couldn't have made, but I was still in that, like, if it's hard, like I'm even more special. My ego was so attached to all that stuff. So I went to Madison, Wisconsin. But when I was still in Ohio, I told my best friends and my college roommates, I said, I'm going to Lake Norman. And they said, why? And I was like, I don't know. This Charlotte's right there.
That sounds like your story.
I like boating. There's a lake right there. The ocean's not, the mountains. I mean, it just seems like the place to be. I didn't realize I was going to have a career in sales. This is probably my freshman year. So I sold them and they moved here. And then I went 8 hours in the opposite direction to Madison, Wisconsin. And by the time I got here, they've moved to their husbands. So I was with a company called Intuitive Surgical, and very competitive. A lot of people lasted 12 months, 18 months. And I was up for a big promotion. They wanted me to move to Chicago. And you really don't speak up in companies like that. And I was like, oh.
Another cold environment.
What am I going to say? And I was like, Christian, I can't do this anymore. And he said, are you burning out? And I said, no, I just can't do the cold. And he goes, where do you want to go? And I said, Charlotte, North Carolina. And he goes, okay, swear. The next day he called me and goes, okay, it's yours. And I said, well, what happened to the guy in Charlotte? And he said, we just fired him. And I was like, he was underperforming anyway. So it was the reason. So they said, if you can hit both of your numbers. I canceled my honeymoon. I was getting married in six weeks. Canceled the honeymoon, postponed that. I had to fly back and forth, hit both numbers, and then made it here. And then once I got here, this was one of the hardest things that I had to go through, just image-wise and with the company. Once I got here, this company had an incredible reputation, but then I'd hear these stories and I'm like, what in the world is going on? Are you sure? The culture was very different down here. And so I moved my husband. I sold that house, came here, and within 6 weeks, I'm like, oh my gosh, what in the? I've never made a mistake like that in my life. Like that was it, which wasn't a mistake. It was a learning opportunity. But I now am here going, oh my gosh, this company just moved mountains for me and just did this, and this is not, I can't survive here. I cannot survive and thrive in this culture. So I lasted, I think, 6 months, and then I went to be the director of sales for a startup out of a Long Island company. Yeah.
But you stayed here.
I stayed here. Yeah. Yeah.
And what about your mom?
My mom is still in Ohio. My father had a full-time job since he was 14. So he'd go to high school and then he would go to the factory afterwards for 8 hours. And so, as you can imagine, work is, he doesn't know what to do without it. And he just retired. So her birthday was July 19th. She's been waiting for him to retire for 20 years. And he retired on her birthday on July 19th. So my mom and dad are there. I have an older brother who's a president of a company, and a niece and nephew. And my older brother's like 10 minutes from my parents too. They're all still back in that small town.
So do you think that your dad's work ethic, I mean, how did that contribute to you and your dreams and desires and compassion and passion to go out there and really set the world on fire?
Yeah. Great question. So it's just so interesting, like the stories you tell yourself and how you interpret things as a child. And so I remember everybody always talked really good about my dad, and my dad is very quiet, very humble, but he does damn good work, and you do it the right way. And people would light up around him, and he's had this energy that was just like cool as a cucumber, And I remember I went on a homecoming date, and the guy, the father, was like, "Whose daughter are you?" Small town, because there was 4 siblings, and one of the siblings had done work for him and didn't even bring the nails. And so he was, and there was a lot of those stories, and so I said, well, I'm Kirby Kuhl's daughter. And he, again, we just had this, and I just remembered, I want people to think of me the exact same way. And so the best way that like I associated that with the way that he worked, and that's when I opened up the door in Nashville and, coach in Nashville, somebody in the industry said, your name means a lot here. And that felt in alignment with me because my name is everything. And, you may not enjoy the experience if we're competing head to head because I want to win, but I'm going to do it in the most graceful way and full of integrity. And I have an army of people that will stand up for my character. And that is absolutely everything. And that's why I was like, okay, let me see if this is true in Nashville. Let me go find my people there. But it was it was seeing how people responded to him. And it was because of the way that he finished the job and the way that he showed up. But I will tell you, my mother will outwork all of us in terms of hours of the day.
Yes.
I mean, she will. Yeah.
I can understand that.
You can eat off her floors no matter what time of day you pop in. There's always an apple pie sitting on the counter. But yeah.
That's great. I think that sounds like a beautiful childhood that you had, that I'm sure they're very proud that you have continued their legacy. And so what would you tell people about what your legacy? What do you want people to know about you?
Yeah, I think that legacy is something that you leave in somebody. I think it's and when people will say like, you're in I heard you today, Christy, like there's this one thing that you said and I heard you. So, there's these moments when we're left with just ourselves and we still have to do hard things, or you're trying to make the decision that's best serving for you. That's probably the greatest compliment, is people saying like, I heard you today, you're still with me. And I really try hard to show up in the best way and say that the things for them. I interviewed a death doula one time who used to live in my building. And I said to her, how many journeys were you on? And she said 1,000, over 1,000. And I said, how many were good? Okay. And not like mechanically like the process, but she knew what I meant. And she said 2. And I said 2. Out of over 1,000, 2. And I said, what made him good? She goes, as soon as you opened the doors, you could feel it. Like you could just feel. I said, what did you feel? I want to know everything. And she said, they left nothing on the table. They left absolutely nothing on the table. And I said, okay, well, what about the other 900 and what? And she said they were sitting there with regret because they can't get out of the bed. And there's all these things they wanted to do. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about the reason why. And of course, it's fear. But the number one reason why was fear of what other people would think. Mm-hmm. Wasn't necessarily fear of failure. It was fear of what other people would think. And, I believe, because it's easier, again, I don't like to say all these things because I'm a person too, and I'm going through a personal experience every single day. And you could tell me like, oh, you should love yourself no matter what your body looks like. Well, I'm sorry, but I love it a little more, so I'm just going to find the time to get in the gym. Right. And so, you can say, so what I'm trying to say is I could tell all these people like, well, don't worry about what other people think. That's not going to help them. But what if you could get around a different group of people? What if you could find like-minded people like yourself? My family, growing up in an environment where there wasn't a lot scarcity hanging on, there's security in employment. And now I'm like, I don't even know what I want to do, but I'm going to leave, right? I'm going to leave this $500,000 a year job and I'm just going to figure it out. That's not the people you talk to. Right? So now they're worried and they just want the best for me with the best of intentions. Like I was already scared to death and I was already questioning myself. If I had the environment of entrepreneurs that were doing this every day, like Sarah Blakely's dad, owner of Spanx, every day at the kitchen table, he said, would you try out and fail? And then they got a high five. In my environment's like, what are people going to think of you? That was kind of the question that was asked. So I think that if there's something on your heart, create the environment. And it could be books and podcasts that are in your ear right now, just to get yourself in a place that you realize that there's a whole other world out here of people that are living the way that you are, And if you can imagine yourself being in that bed and not being able to get out, would you be upset that you didn't just try? And if the answer is yes, then find a way, find the people to support you to do it.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all doing that. I feel confident.
I feed off of other people. Like Marnie and I, honestly, we just met in January and I feel
Really?
like, oh yeah.
but we don't give off the energy that we just met.
No.
Because there's a lot of compassion between the two of us and understanding
we feed off each other. And I feel like we have a lot of similarities, a lot. I mean, we don't drink either, neither one of us. We both go to bed very early. We both get up super early. We both love dogs. I don't have children. Marnie has 3, but I've adopted those as my husband and I both have adopted her children as
my children. I'm very thankful for that too.
Ours. But I feel like I like to put myself around positive people. Yeah. I like to put myself around people that I can feed off of, that give me positive energy, push me to things. And Marnie has done that. I have never been a public speaker, and she had this great idea that we should start a podcast, and I'm like, I'm over here just having fun with being a fashion influencer and dressing up in pretty Alice and Olivia clothes every day, not public speaking. But I have, this has been very enjoyable.
I love that you guys have found each other. And even just that, the amount of people that have told me in the years past, like, could you take me off the list? And I'm like, what list? They're like that 5 a.m. text thing. And I'm like, oh. I mean, I'm ready to go.
Me too.
Yeah. Oh, no.
I'm a rooster.
Who was it that said if you get up? Nick Saban talked about that. He's a great speaker. And he talked about, people that get up early, highly successful. So there's something to starting your day at 5 a.m. All top executive CEOs, you know this. You do this for a living. And you are a top executive. The earlier you get up, the more successful.
And I'm excited to start the day. I'm like, I get up and I'm like, I want to do my gratitude journal and check in with the people that I love.
It's like your me time.
And part of it also is that like real work starts at like 8:00, but between like 5 and 8 is when I feel like that's like my best time of the day. Like I can follow up on the things I need to follow up on. I can check in on certain things that I know I need to make sure that I get done. And so I think that those are things that I am grateful that I am a morning person. But again, that goes back to, that's a choice. Like lifestyle choices are easy decisions, because if you want to have a healthy, productive life, you have to make those kind of choices. And that seems like a no-brainer. Some people have a little more challenge with that. But
yeah. But, just to add on that for a second, like, because I focus so much on alignment, I shouldn't be allowed to drive a car past 9 p.m. I mean, I really shouldn't. And I can't really have very thoughtful conversations at past 10 too. I mean, the plane is on the way down. And so, for me to have a job where I have to be on at 9 p.m., that just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work for me. So why not get a job or create an environment that does work for me? Right. So, and those are little things, I talk a lot about leveraging your physiology. When do you feel the best? Mm-hmm. Do the hard thing. Right. I still have a chicken list. There's still people and, moves that I want to make and phone calls and texts and things like there's specific times that I do that. Wait, you call it
a chicken list?
Yeah.
So those are things that you're afraid to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So you put that on your list and say this, I'm afraid to do this. I'm going to call myself out on it. And do you give yourself an end date or a start date to do it or not?
Oh, it's very quick. I mean, I'm like, I get it off my plate as quickly as possible. But the endorphin release is real for me. So after I used to work out at Burn Boot Camp, and now I work out in my gym, but I used to keep my chicken list, and I did this throughout my whole career too. It's on my front seat. So I don't leave that parking lot until I did the thing, because when I get done with that workout, I feel like I just like grew wings and I could jump off the building, right? So if I get off of stage or if I am done working out, that is the best time for me. And that's how you talk about being bold. That's how I make, and I help other people make these bold moves. Don't try to do it when, you're hungover, you just had something really bad happen, or, just pay attention to that. And so if you're not a morning person, fine. Don't try to make those big, bold moves in the morning. But if you are, make them in the morning or do the hard stuff first. And so it's these little things that I think a lot of it we already know, but just to speak about it out loud helps and gives people permission. Like, okay, this is how you can take care of all this stuff so that you can get even higher, if that makes sense. Because I feel like everything else is like running with the parachute on your back in the wind. We're making everything hard.
I think that's
so. Can we make some of this stuff easy?
A great valid point, because I'm a morning person. However, I'm not a I know what time I can get out of here to get to the gym.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people, if they put time constraints on things, they would be able to either do something or not do something. You may hate the gym, but it's a love-hate relationship for me. However, if I can get there at 10 o'clock and not 7 o'clock in the morning, then I'm going to perform better than not. And once I leave, I always feel so much better. And it makes my day so much more productive. It definitely makes my eating habits much better.
Yeah.
But I know myself well enough to know, like I had a friend ask me last week, she goes to a personal trainer and she says, I would love for you to come with me to the personal trainer. And I said, okay, that'd be great. What time, where is it and what time? 7 a.m. I was like, honestly, I'll go, but I'm going to have to choose a different time for me because I know I am not ready to work out at 7 a.m. That's still my personal time where I'm drinking coffee and planning my day, not working out at 7 a.m. because I used to be that person who had a job that I had to work out at, the crack of dawn or either after work. And I don't have to do that anymore. So I am able to do that at a time that is best for me and it makes me more productive.
Yeah, I love that. I love when awareness is everything. Just knowing, and if you have the choice, and sometimes we don't have the choice, and we know, like, you know what, I just got to get through this.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to pull that lever, we're going to get through this. But if there's a way to design it in a way where things can flow, because again, like this whole thing we don't know how many more days we have.
We don't. Or minutes for that.
Or minutes, yeah. So like, how can I enjoy, how can I have fewer hard things?
So Marnie and I are sports people, so I have to ask, because you grew up in Ohio, are you a Buckeyes fan?
I'm not a Buckeyes fan. Does that make me part of the club or not part of the club?
No, I graduated from Penn State. So I like even more now that I know that you're not a Buckeye.
But so many great football players come out of Ohio,
Yeah.
Did you go to Ohio?
No, I went to Bowling Green State University, and my ex-husband was the captain of the team. And he played for Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer was the coach at that time. So, so I was at all the games. I would say, I love the energy in the stadium. Living in Madison, just seeing how the city would come out for the Badgers was just warmed my heart to see. I mean, they were such diehards. Same thing with Green Bay. That was 2.5 hours away. Yeah.
We're big Panther fans and we're excited. We're going to the Green Bay game in the end of October. So we're real excited about Green Bay. Randy went to the draft this year, my husband, and it was in Green Bay, and he said it's just a spectacular stadium. So we're excited about it.
End of October?
Yeah. It's actually November 2nd.
Yeah.
We'll be in New York, and we're going to fly up to Green Bay.
Still dress warm.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be cold, which is good because I'm a cold weather girl. I love my fall and winter clothes. It? Oh, yeah. That's my time.
Okay.
It's the clothes for me.
Yeah.
And it's good. It makes your hair, it's a lot better than I have naturally curly hair. So anytime I can have a no humidity cold day as opposed to Charlotte, humid 100 degrees, I'm there for it.
Yeah. But I still don't know how to do my hair down here. I mean, there's just
hard.
days that it just does its thing. But today we had such a beautiful day.
It looks beautiful
so
today.
grateful.
Yes. So we would never know that, I was at an event recently and, somebody was saying something and they were, saying about the things like that they can't do their hair or whatever. But, then the woman speaking was like, you have to remember to correct yourself. We would never know. You look great, Christy. And so thank you for, being here and joining us today on Bench to Bold and sharing so much with us and our audience. Thank you.
I
feel very inspired.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I feel like we need to do some group coaching with Christy.
Let's do it.
Yes. Yeah. So speaking of, how can people find you?
Yeah. So I'm Christy_Kuhl, Kuhl is my last name, on Instagram, Christy Kuhl on all other platforms. If you're interested in my 12-week program, it's unleashedwithchristy.com. ChristyKuhl.com is my website. I think by now you can put me into Google and you can find me somewhere, and we will get back to you, regardless of how you find us. Just so appreciative.
Well, thanks again for you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for joining us on Bench to Bold. I'm Marnie,
and I'm Alisa. See you next time.
See you next time.